All right, and here he is, as promised. You know him on Twitter as the real NFL guru. It is Anthony Cervino. Anthony, man, welcome to the Dynasty Warzone.
Thanks for having me, guys. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm always good, but not as good as you, my friend. I saw some pictures recently. You had a little bit of fun the last couple of weeks, I saw.
Oh, yeah, I was in Jamaica last week.
Look at this guy living the dream.
The time, the time of my life, my first real vacation. I live in Jersey, so doing some time in Ocean City, that doesn't really count. So an actual real vacation, first time in like 6-7 years.
Love to see it.
Yeah, man, it was great to see you because as someone who follows you, and we're in a fantasy league together, and it just sounded like you needed it, and I think we've all needed it from time to time. And it was good to see you relaxing there poolside, just chilling. It was great to see.
I'm a creature of habit, but it was nice. It was nice to not really worry about a thing.
And man, we all need that from time to time. I'm going to do that to Jerry here in about 3 weeks. I'm going to go to Florida with my family, and I'm going to leave the burden of the Dynasty Warzone in Jerry's hands. But
you're going to come back to shambles and ashes and ruins.
No, Jerry, I know better. I actually have already I've got you a babysitter. Kyle and Jake from the FF SmackDown will be here to help keep you and this show on the rails, and to keep our almost 3 straight years of a Dynasty Warzone every Wednesday intact. But tonight, man, we're just going to kind of bump around. The title of the show is Franchise Tag. You're it. But we're going to talk about guys who got tagged, guys who didn't get tagged, some impact to their dynasty value, to your dynasty rosters. But the big news of the week, as the news is about 24 hours, 24 hours old as we hit the record button, is the signing of a 4-year deal. I called it the Watson, very similar to the deal Deshaun Watson got with Houston about 9 months ago, and it's Dak. Dak is going to be a Cowboy for the next 4 years. So I'm going to start with our guest. Anthony, what was your initial reaction when you saw the Dak deal? Did anything change with his dynasty value for you, or anyone on the Cowboys in general?
I've always, and I'm a Cowboys fan, so I was ecstatic that they finally got him done. I was a little bit worried that this could have turned into another Kirk Cousins situation and the relationship would have been severed next year. So it's a good thing as a fan, and really in fantasy or from an NFL standpoint, it's nice to see a guy like Dak Prescott get paid. Since he's been in the league, the second most wins, tied with Russell Wilson, only to Tom Brady, who's number one. And I know his past 18 games has been a little bit rough. You had the coaching change, a lot of injuries. This offensive line is getting older. But this Dak deal, it allows the Cowboys, it opens up right around $15 million of cap space. His cap hits 22.2. If he played under the tag, it would have been 37.8. And I'm using rough numbers, give or take $100,000 here or there, but it gives Dallas some flexibility to now focus on retooling the offensive line and getting this defense back together. Dynasty-wise, he's my QB3. And I can make a strong case, depending on how this offseason goes, I can bump him to QB2, who right now is Josh Allen for me. If they can fix this offensive line, we know Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, this offense is going to put up points, is going to put up production. But it all depends. Like this defense, they're not going to go from worst to first. At best, this is a top 20 defense next year, which means they are going to be in a lot of shootouts and playing from behind. And with all of the weapons coming back, why can't Dak, if he stays healthy, be the second best quarterback, or even projecting him to be the first?
I love it, and I have Dak. I feel better. You had him as your 3. I have him as my 4. We got some love. We did some quarterback rankings here on the show. What was it, about a month or so ago, Jerry?
Yeah.
And we got a lot of love from the listeners saying thank you guys for having Dak so high, because it seems like at other dynasty services they have Dak a little bit further down their rankings, and I don't get it. He was never not going to be a Cowboy. He was never not going to be tethered to that wide receiver core. So I was happy. I shared my thoughts a little bit last night on the FF SmackDown. But Jerry, what are your thoughts on the Dak signing from a dynasty standpoint?
I mean, good for the Cowboys. What else were they going to do? They're not really in a spot to rebuild. And if you're not going to sign the dude, you're telling everybody you're rebuilding. yes, you could have saved money had you done it earlier, but you can't play in, ifs and buts. So it was a smart move. It's good. He's my QB3. If he produced as the QB1 overall, I don't think anybody would be surprised. The dude was a freak last year when he was playing. Multiple games, over 400 yards. CeeDee Lamb looks like a monster. Amari Cooper's still there. Michael Gallup's there. You could still run Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, what do you want the man to do? I mean, he was easily my top acquisition last year because of the injury, so it made it a little cheaper, a little easier to get to him. I've got tons of him. I was happy to see it. I wasn't surprised. I don't know. It just seemed like it was going to be chalk, like that just had to happen. So I'm excited. I'm glad it's behind us. That's what I did. I was done hearing about that nonsense for so long. So at least we can move forward. We can see what that team looks like. We'll see what they do at 10. I think that's an exciting spot for them, especially because I think that's a good team. And I think they're the best team in that division. I know that doesn't say a lot, but I think they're easily the top team, and they can add a good piece at 10. So it's exciting. The draft is going to be fun, man. I am so excited for it.
Oh, for me, I think Dallas actually handled this quite well, the way they got this done, because we talked about this last night. Look at Philadelphia and LA, the way they handled Goff and Wentz. They signed those dudes the absolute second they could. It ended up burning both of them real bad, to where the Rams basically had to give Detroit a first to get Goff off of their team, and then the Eagles had to take the current largest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL to get Carson Wentz off of their team. So to lay back and just let the thing play out, it didn't really cost him any more money. Dak, it did cost him, $34 million last year. It would have cost like 37 this year. They handled it good, and they've got him locked in. It's good for everybody. So I thought it was a slam dunk, and I'm firmly buying CeeDee Lamb. Not that I wasn't already, but this is your buy CeeDee Lamb window. So we're going to jump into a few of these guys that did and did not get tagged today. I think we'll just start with the biggest. For me, it was the biggest surprise. We actually did this last night on the SmackDown, that we did the Dynasty Love Connection. We turned it into a dating game, and I felt almost for sure that Allen Robinson was not going to get tagged. It felt like the Bears were clearing cap space to try to trade for or land Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. That kind of feels like that plan's out the window. But we'll go down that street a different day. I'm going to go back to Anthony. Anthony, what did you think of the Allen Robinson, the franchise tagging for the second year? Going to pay him a little bit more than the first year tag guys, because you get like a 10% in addition too. So for him, it's right at $18 million. Did that catch you off guard? And what do you think about this long term for him?
Well, no, it didn't. With Allen Robinson, it was always 50-50 for me, because all the reports were saying that these two sides have not talked since right around September on a long-term deal. So I would think, okay, they're just going to let him walk. However, there's that other side of me that said if they let him walk, that cupboard is bare. They're left with Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller and a bunch of guys. So Allen Robinson is also a player to where, if you look, I believe Amari Cooper is making $20 million a year. You're still getting Allen Robinson, who you can make the case is a better all-around wide receiver than Amari Cooper. And again, coming from a Cowboys fan, $2 million cheaper. Or if you're the Bears, you can sign and trade Allen Robinson. This way, you're not just letting him walk. You can recuperate some type of an asset for this now franchise tag player. So I think it's a win for the Bears, and I think it's a competent move by Ryan Pace, and I can't say that a lot.
What about you, Jerry? What was your take on, because like I said, for me, I'll cover it in just a second, but for me, it caught me a little bit more off guard than I guess maybe it did Anthony.
I think it's smart for the Bears. I mean, you need talent. You're a team devoid of a lot of offensive playmakers. I don't love it for Allen Robinson. I mean, he's been okay. He had his 1,400-yard season year 2 in Jacksonville, and he had some injuries, and he got, he was stumbling around a little bit. He sort of come into his own. He hit his age 26 season 2 years ago, hit 1,100 yards. He hit 1,200 yards last year. So I guess I don't hate it as much as I thought when I initially saw it. Because I wanted him to emerge in one of those spots with, Trevor Lawrence or something sexy, because I'm just a sucker for the headlines like that. But I mean, in hindsight, when you take a step back, you look at it, it's, he's had stable production there. It's pretty good for a dynasty perspective. And there's going to be a lot of teams that don't want to see the man in Chicago. They don't want to see him in the Bears uniform. They're going to think the same things that I just said when I initially saw it. You might be able to get him at a little bit of a value.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of both of what you said. First of all, I love what Anthony said. I had not thought about it from that standpoint. He's dead on. Julio Jones making $20 million a year. Michael Thomas making $20 million a year. Amari Cooper making $20 million a year. You're getting a guy who's playing as good, if not a little bit better, for $2 million a year. And I really think for a lot of these franchise tag guys, it's not the worst case scenario. This is a down year for the salary cap. I think we've heard that ad nauseum at this point. So what are you going to get? In the case of Allen Robinson, you're going to get $18 million bucks, and you're going to get a chance to do this all over again next year. They're not going to tag him for a third time. I think that if they do it again, it adds a 40% premium to the franchise tag. So he's going to get a walk. He's getting paid big money, and not a lot of teams have a lot of cap room. So for him, it's good there. But I love that, Paul, that the Bears are actually saving money. It's weird because we hear the term sign and trade. You tend to hear that more in the NBA with big NBA contracts, but I've yet to see a true sign and trade. But I think that's not a bad way to look at it with Allen Robinson. Why let him walk for free when he would have been so highly sought after? So we'll talk about Chris Godwin. Obviously, he's going to stay. I don't think a lot's changed for him from a dynasty standpoint. But I do want to talk about Jerry's team. And Jerry, I'll start with you on this one. Your man in Honolulu Blue, Kenny Gallaudet, roughly the same age as Allen Robinson, even though Allen Robinson's been in the league a little bit longer, about 3 seasons longer than KG. They're going to let him walk. He is going to be on the offensive side of the ball now that Dak has got a long-term deal. I think he's the free agent from a skill position standpoint. What do you think? Are you surprised? Were you caught off guard? Were you hoping they were going to use it?
No, I was not hoping they were going to use it. The Lions, for the first time really in my lifetime, are doing what they've always needed to do. The play-by-play for the Lions tweeted yesterday that they've just been continuously trying to fix the car while the car is running, and they needed to shut it down, scrap it, and they needed to restart and just get a new car. And I think that's finally what they're starting to do. And Kenny Gallaudet, going into his age 28 season, I think.
27. I think he may turn 28 in season.
So he just, he clipped 1,000 yards, and then he had his big season where he had the 11 touchdowns when Stafford got hurt. Last year, banged up. He's a good piece. Don't get me wrong. And he's a wide receiver one on a bad team. I don't know if he's a true difference maker in truth. But you can put him in a good spot. He's sort of like Stafford. Like, I will be happy to see the man succeed elsewhere, but he was not what the Lions needed. I sort of thought they were going to cut bait with Allen Robinson, and Kenny Gallaudet would be the guy there. Sort of similar players. He's from Chicago, went to Northern Illinois, but that's not the case. Maybe he's the guy that ends up in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. It'll be interesting. I think Aaron Jones is probably the short-term asset as far as sort of the polarizing player.
Don't jump ahead on me. Don't jump ahead on me.
Obviously, we're going to get there. But, I mean, Kenny G, I wish you success, my friend. Anytime a Lion, any Lion player can get the hell out of this black hole of an organization, good for you. Y'all deserve it. But he's not my favorite player. We had our sweethearts and our breakups. He was one of my breakups. I feel like his name gets a little more value than his production does. And I think that's going to be the same going forward.
So I was going to ask Anthony. So Anthony, what do you think about him on the open market? And then from a dynasty standpoint, what are your thoughts overall on Kenny G now that he's, maybe a best place scenario for him and his overall dynasty value?
I'm not exactly a Kenny Gallaudet guy. I think he's a nice player, but does he warrant the hype that we see a lot on fantasy Twitter? I don't think he's that player. And you said it right. Maybe on a bad team, he's a 1, but on teams with a really good number 1 wide receiver, he's more of the complementary piece. And I think that's fine. We just need to start valuing him correctly. And for Kenny Gallaudet, it's landing spot driven. If Kenny Gallaudet, and we see the rumors and linking him to the New York Giants, I think that could work. I believe in Daniel Jones, but I don't think they've ever given Daniel Jones a true big-bodied wide receiver. Sterling Shepard's not a 1. They tried making him a 1. Never had a 1,000-yard season, can't stay healthy. Darius Slayton, he is what he is. He's a big play threat, and that's it. That hype less even. You overpaid for him. Golden Tate doesn't work anywhere anymore. Kenny Gallaudet in New York with those complementary pieces, a healthy Saquon. I think the defense is getting better. The line's getting better. Kenny Gallaudet could be that player to not only jumpstart Daniel Jones, but he could also jumpstart this young Giants team that does have talent.
Well, I like the call because you're a gambling man. As I mentioned in the intro earlier, Anthony does some gambling work. And last week on the big bet, Dr. Kyle and I broke it down. You know, I made 2 bets on the NFC East. I took the Cowboys at even money. The Cowboys are plus 100 on DraftKings. So I bet that. And then I bet the Giants at plus 425. You know, worst case scenario, I break even. Yeah, I let the bookie hold my money until the end of next season. But if the Giants win this division, I stand to make a tidy little profit. And I don't really think Philadelphia or Washington will win it. And I love this. So who is the offensive coordinator in New York? It's the Clapper. It's Jason Garrett. How did Jason Garrett use a guy named Des Bryant? You know, I know maybe I'm projecting and going down narrative street, but what could Kenny Gallaudet and Daniel Jones give you some old school Tony Romo and Des Bryant vibes? It could with me. And then you've got a good tight end in Evan Ingram. You've got a good running back in Saquon. It allows everybody to work down a level. It allows Darius Slayton to be a 2. It allows Sterling Shepard to be a slot 3. Then you got Evan Ingram, you know, tight end, and he can split out and line up in the slot himself. And then Barkley's a great pass catcher. It really and then they can use their draft pick to add more offensive line help. I think this really helps everybody. What were you going to say there, Tone? Anthony?
The other rumored team linked to Gallaudet, and I just want your opinion on this, is the Miami Dolphins. What is the better fit, Daniel Jones and that offense from New York, or Miami, and maybe Tua, maybe somebody else, and the rest of those pieces in Miami?
Well, for me, this will be a nice segue to the next guy I want to talk about was Juju. I actually think they've already got a Kenny Gallaudet type guy in Devontae Parker. Big body, outside clasher. And then, you know, if you go to NFL Next Gen Stats and check out Tua, he tends to funnel the ball a little bit more to the inside of the field. I think Tua and Miami would do a lot better with Juju. You know, Juju plays an awesome slot receiver role. I think Miami is going to be a big player in free agency as well as the draft. So what do you think about Juju in Miami? I'll kind of toss it back to you, and we'll leave Jerry out.
You know, I didn't really put that together because I think Juju's that type of player. And I like to go outside the box. And if you look at the personality and he likes taunting his division rivals, I could see him going to a division rival just to stick it back to Pittsburgh. And, you know, a team like the Ravens jump out to me who really, they need wide receivers. They're desperate for wide receivers. But Juju to Miami, and you just said it, the way Tua funnels the football. And because we saw some of their slot players have productive games in PPR, not big-time yardage-wise, but getting a lot of targets and receptions. And it made me think back. Jarvis Landry, they've never replaced Jarvis in that offense. Juju makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I trust Tua. That's another story, but
well, you know, I believe in these organizations that give these young guys the opportunity to be successful. You know, I've been skeptical on Jalen Hurts, and I don't want to go down a Philadelphia rabbit hole. But my biggest concern with Jalen Hurts from a dynasty standpoint was the organization going to commit to him? They did that yesterday. They doubled down and say, we're going to get him some weapons. I think Tua needs the same thing. You've got Parker, you got Williams on the outside, you got Gesicki. they need a slot receiver. Maybe they go after one in the draft. Maybe they go after a guy like Amari Rogers, the Kadarius Toney guy out of Florida. I think that could be a fit. But Jerry, you're doing TikTok dances with Juju. Juju's your guy. You love Juju. Where do you want to see him land? Where's a good fit?
Well, he also made me look real stupid because I thought my man was going to grow and Antonio Brown left. For the record, don't have a TikTok. I hate to tell you. I know I look like I have a baby face. I'm not that young, though. I think Miami is a good spot for him for every reason that you just said. So I'm not going to, compound too much on it. The days of thinking Juju was going to get 1,400 yards are over. So if he can have a role, be a 24-year-old wide receiver who gets 1,100 yards and 80 catches, 90 catches, I think somewhere like Miami is a good spot. It's yeah. All right. You know what? Let's get a little sidetracked. If there's one thing that I'm good at doing, it's just veering right off the rails, because Miami is going to be one of these destination spots. They have money, they have picks, they have a lot of things going on. So you said you don't trust Tua, Anthony. Expound on it a little bit for me. Enlighten me. He's not my favorite guy either. So I sort of want to hear my own opinion out of your mouth, because that's what we do.
When I'm watching Tua, I guess he doesn't pass the eye test for me. It's like there's something missing. There was a few times, and I forgot what game it was, but towards the end of the year, and you knew Miami had to win because down the stretch you had 4 or 5 teams with 10 wins, and one of them was not going to make the playoffs. These are big must-win spots, and Tua, instead of taking the ball and going for the first down or going to score the touchdown and putting his body on the line, he either threw it away or ran out of bounds. It's like, it's all right. So these special players, when you see Dak run with the football, when we see Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes, even Aaron Rodgers, they'll go and take it. Tua didn't take it. He was hesitant. That worries me. That worries me about the psychology of it. Maybe the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing. Maybe there's something psychology-wise that damaged, because we know that quarterbacks, just like pitchers and a lot of other sports, they're a little bit frail upstairs. I don't know what's going on, but he's just not doing it for me.
And for me, it's just he looks hesitant. And this has always been my fear about quarterbacks coming out of big Power 5 programs, historically badass programs like Ohio State, like Clemson. And I don't want to go down the Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence rabbit hole, but when you I think it was Sugar Ray Leonard who said, when you wake up every day in seats, it's hard to get up and fight hard every day. And that's kind of how I feel about these quarterbacks that go to Alabama. They're not used to adversity. They've got 4 first-round wide receivers in Alabama, couple of offensive linemen going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. I think every running back that he played ball with in college went in the first or second round, if I remember correctly. And he's just wound up in a team where there's a little bit more adversity. You don't have as much time. And so that's what makes me nervous. And it's just, for me with Tua, it's more of his teammates turning their back on him. It's not even so much to play on the field, but you had 3 anonymous teammates in Miami, defensive players, that questioned him publicly. Publicly with their names withheld. And then when asked directly at the at the Senior Bowl, Devonta Smith, without hesitation, said that he preferred playing with Mac Jones over Tua. And then the exact same question was asked to Jalen Waddle, and Jalen Waddle said the exact same thing. And these guys played more with Tua. They played more games with Tua, so they're a good point of reference. To me, with Tua, it's more that drip, drip, drip. It's concerning, but then again, in Dynasty, you might be able to get a value. So, but I do want to go back. So we've went down Tua Street, and he's not a free agent, but this Juju to the Baltimore Ravens. This one fascinates me because Lamar Jackson, another guy. What position does he like throwing the ball to? The tight end, quite a bit. We've seen a couple of very big seasons out of Mark Andrews with Lamar Jackson. I have not charted him on Next Gen Stats, but I can just tell you from the eyeball test, he looks like he would prefer to throw the ball to the middle of the field. My concern with any wide receiver going to Baltimore is that they averaged, since Lamar's been the quarterback, they averaged about 28 pass attempts a game. Not 28 completions, 28 pass attempts. So a wide receiver or any position could get 7 targets a game and have a 25% target share at the wide receiver position. That would be a bigger concern for me. Would that be a concern for you, Anthony?
Yeah, that definitely would.
But could that also be the fact that they have a bunch of crumb bums and shoe clerks at wide receiver too?
I think.
Yeah, I do think that Harbaugh wants to run the ball. Obviously, when you have Lamar Jackson and you had Ingram and
a good defense.
Yeah, I think it would increase, but I hear you and I agree. I don't think anybody would be excited if any of these guys land in Baltimore. I think it's good for Baltimore. It helps them get over the hump that they want to get over.
Sure.
But as 3 human beings that play Dynasty and want to try and steal other people's money because of that game, I don't think anybody would be excited about that.
All right. Well, I think we've done a pretty good job talking wide receivers. Let's get into running backs. Jerry, you wanted to get into this guy earlier. So Aaron Jones avoided the franchise tag. It was rumored, I don't know, it happened over the weekend that maybe they would hit him with the franchise tag. Jerry, where do you see him going? Best landing spot for it's hard to get better than the Packers, but where could he land that he would hold some dynasty value or maybe even generate some buzz?
I don't think there's anywhere where he gets better. I think the Green Bay offense was extremely conducive to him getting touchdowns. And I just don't see that going anywhere else. Now, if he lands in Arizona, I'll still be happy about it. It's a pretty good offense. They could use a better running back as a anti-Kenyon Drake guy that I am. And I'm not, as much as I like Chase Edmonds, I am not going to buy the coach speak out of Cliff's mouth. But I mean, he could land in a couple. I would have liked him to land in Houston, but then they re-signed David Johnson, which, whatever. There's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down. So I would like Arizona. I would be a little bit excited about it, but either way, no matter where the man goes, I do not foresee a situation where a 26, 27-year-old running back going to his second team and is no longer part of the, 15, 14, 18 touchdowns that he was getting in Green Bay. I don't see it.
What about you, Anthony?
We talked about Aaron Jones a little bit earlier today on the FF Face-Off, and my co-host Mike Hoff brought up the Jets. I almost vomited in my mouth. I don't like the landing spot on New York Jets. I don't care if he's going to be featured or not there. One of the spots that I actually like a lot, because I believe Green Bay is the perfect landing spot for Aaron Jones. Just like you said, it's not going to get any better than where he's at. But if he is going to go anywhere else, I'm kind of feeling the Jaguars.
You're going to hurt Jerry. Jerry's a big James Robinson
such
guy.
a James Robinson stan. Yeah. I would possibly flip this computer off of this table.
You're really that in on J-Rob? And I like J-Rob, but this is a Jaguars team. They need to, with the Urban Meyer hire, and they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. They are number 1 in cap space. A lot of these moves, to me, especially Urban Meyer, they need to sell tickets. They need to have people come back to the stadium because the Jaguars, ever since that Super Bowl, they became the same old Jaguars, and they want to change the culture there. Aaron Jones, I think, would be a perfect fit. Not saying J-Rob isn't going to get any touches, because we know that Jamal Williams got his fair share of touches in Green Bay, and Aaron Jones still managed to be productive, not truly being, the 3-down workhorse. And I think I could see a same situation in Jacksonville. That team intrigues me a lot.
Well, I'm going to go to the same well as your co-host Michael. I actually this was my buddy Kyle from the FF SmackDown. This was his take, but his offensive coordinator / head coach in Green Bay is Matt LaFleur, and Matt's brother Mike is the offensive coordinator in New York. So he would be running a very similar system. It's a team that is going to be behind a lot. They would be checking the ball down a lot. So maybe he could offset some of that loss of touchdown value with some PPR value. And I think he's going to go wherever, whoever opens up the checkbook the most. He plays the most disposable position in the NFL. And he's got what was he like, a Jerry, like a third or a fourth round guy, fifth round,
Yeah,
something like
UTEP.
Yeah, he's
okay. Let's say he goes to the Jets, though. What the hell are you doing with him in Dynasty? Because what I'm doing is what Anthony's doing, and I'm just puking everywhere because that's atrocious and horrible.
It's tough.
That is code for I hate him and I won't have him on my team.
Well, as a guy who does not have a lot of Aaron Jones anywhere, this is not going to impact me, but it's not about me. I'm here to help the listeners. I just think you have to take you have to take that on the chin. I think ever since the season was over, we knew that this gambling was coming. We knew that there was a good shot that he was going to wind up as a free agent. I think if you're an Aaron Jones fan, you're really hoping he lands in Miami. I think that's the best overall spot for him. They've got money. Maybe they don't want to use all those draft picks on a running back. Maybe they don't want to draft as high to get a Travis Etienne or a Javonte Williams or one of those guys. So maybe they go running back in free agency, for a couple of 2-3 year stopgap. And so it's going to come down. If he lands in Miami, you'll be okay because the perception is he'll be the workhorse. But I'm with you guys. Even though I think systematically it's a fit in New York, it's not. So a couple other guys I want to get to as we're about the halfway point here is we'll just kind of go around the horn. You guys can bring up any one you want from the running back position. Chris Carson didn't get the franchise tag, which does not surprise me. I don't think Seattle was going to pay $15 million. I think that's about what the running back tag was. Marlon Mack's out there, James Conner. I know I'm missing a couple. Anthony, who's your favorite of the running backs left, not named Aaron Jones?
To me, this is a very, very weak running back class, compared to the wide receivers where you have a lot of depth with key players. Outside of Aaron Jones, then you have Chris Carson and Kenyon Drake, and maybe you put James Conner there, maybe not. It's just weak in terms of running backs, but I'm a Kenyon Drake guy. I think Kenyon Drake gets a bad rap, but maybe it's because he also got overhyped for such a long time. If you're paying the right price for a Kenyon Drake, even last year, I don't think you did too bad. If you remember, I think it was in the preseason training camp, right around August, there were reports saying that he was spotted in a walking boot. And if you look at his track record, he didn't really start getting going until the second half. Maybe that all, has something to do with each other. But Kenyon Drake's a guy that I'm very interested to see where he's going to go in dynasty and redraft formats. I think his reputation could be a little bit damaged to where you might get a guy who people were drafting in the second round last year. Maybe you get him in the fourth.
Hey, I've always been neutral on Marlon Mack. I was the biggest advocate in the world. I'm going to talk about Marlon Mack. I was a little distracted. I was meant to say Kenyon Drake. I was a big Kenyon Drake guy. When he got traded, I was like, man, go get him. I like when a team proactively says, hey, this is our guy. I don't think they're going to give him the transition tag or the tag again. So I'll be curious to see where he lands. Now, if I could get I keep wanting to go Marlon Mack. If I could get Kenyon, Marlon, Kenyon. If I could get Kenyon Drake.
Just talk about Marlon Mack. It's all right. We got
you. We'll go. You know how we do it here, Jerry. I just don't want to talk about players that we like. I want to talk about how to acquire these guys. I mean, I think if I'm sitting at the 301, 302, I don't care where Kenyon Drake goes. Can I get some cheap Kenyon Drake in my life before he lands? Because here's the thing. What if he goes home? What if he goes back to Miami? Different head coach. It's no longer Adam Gase. It could be a whole new world for him in Miami. He could go to Jacksonville. I think you're going to get a shot at, if you're more of a contender in Dynasty and you want to use a guy like a Kenyon Drake this year versus how many points per game are you going to get out of your 302 or your 303 or your 304? Probably not a lot. Why not just go out and try to get some cheap Kenyon Drake? And then we'll talk about Marlon Mack. Jerry, you're the anti-Kenyon Drake guy. So tell me, what would it take for you to get Kenyon?
I was an anti-Kenyon Drake guy when he was going, 11th overall in drafts. That's it. That was silly. The man blew up in the fantasy playoffs in 2019, and everyone's nipples got super hard about the dude, and he got way overdrafted in 2020. That's why I was an anti-Kenyon Drake, man. If he's cheap, yes, of course. Listen, I hate a lot of players in this league. When you're a Detroit Lions fan, there's a lot of players that spit in your face, and so I got to hate a lot of them. If they're cheap enough, I'm going to take them. Listen, if they can help me win and I can text Randy and let him know that he's worse than me at this game, I'm going to take that player so I can do it. That's what makes it fun. Don't shake your head. Hey, listen, you know damn well that'll happen. So I'm cool with that. There's a bunch of these guys. Like Anthony said, it's just so much meh in this. Like James Conner, like if he went somewhere, sure, he could see a little bit of value. He's also more than likely going to just crush somebody's value. We talked about James Robinson earlier. There is I would say a 0% chance they don't bring somebody in, and it's going to be one of these Marlon Macks, James Connors, Kenyon Drake, somebody. I don't think any of them are going to have standalone value themselves, really, at least as consistent, reliable dynasty assets. But I think they're going to break a lot of hearts. So let's talk about somebody who's after your heart. You've already started talking about him. Let's just talk about Marlon Mack. Where do you want the Mack attack to go? He
is the guy who is getting the least run out of all these free agents. Now he's coming off of an injury, man.
He's coming off of an injury. Everybody forgets about him. We live in an echo chamber of recency bias, my friend.
I dig it, and he's a guy that I would love to see wind up in San Francisco. I know Raheem Mostert's there, Tevin Coleman. This is where broken running backs go to die, I guess, and let him get his shot. But I've always believed in the talent that is Marlon Mack. Obviously, the Colts are going to lean heavily on, Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines, and that's probably going to be the backfield of the future. But, I mean, you guys have both already nailed it. This running back class, for me, it gets really sketchy after the big three. After you get past Harris, Etienne, and Williams, it's a crapshoot. And this running back group, once you get past, from a free agent standpoint, get past Aaron Jones, it's a crapshoot. So if I'm going to do a crapshoot, give me a crapshoot on the cheapest guy. And I think the cheapest guy you can get in free agency right now is Marlon Mack. So that's my guy. I heard Anthony, he had a little positive tone to his voice when I mentioned Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I actually I was doing a best ball draft. It was like my first best ball draft of the year, and I see a guy named Marlon Mack available, buried. I probably could have got him in the 16th round. I got him in the 14th round. This is a guy like 2 years ago, weren't we drafting him in the 4th or 5th round? And last year he gets pushed back to the 8th, 9th round because of Jonathan Taylor. Outside of injuries, he's a productive player on the field. And I know he had a great offensive line. I know he's coming off the Achilles. I mean, fantasy Twitter thinks you get an Achilles injury, it's fatal. The way that you hear people talk about Marlon Mack right now, but he's going to catch on to a team. Maybe he doesn't start right away, or maybe he goes to Seattle because it seems like he could fit well into that Seattle offense. Another team that is in need for a running back, I like Buffalo for Marlon Mack. I think their starting running back is not on that roster. And there's one more team that I actually like, and my co-host brought this team up when talking about Aaron Jones. They're in the running back business, and whoever signs there, if it's a guy like Aaron Jones, could have a huge year. That's the Falcons.
Yeah,
I love the
with
Falcons.
Arthur Smith there, absolutely.
Yeah, and I had not thought of Marlon Mack in that Buffalo offense. I mean, that would be just another beauty of a landing spot. So, all right, when I hit a couple of tight ends, so I'll pass it to both of you. You guys can take turns. I'll go back to Anthony. Anthony, more likely to be overhyped due to a new landing spot. Is it going to be Hunter Henry, or is it going to be Jonnu Smith?
Jonnu Smith.
Where do you think he goes?
See a landing spot for Jonnu Smith. I could see him like he can almost fit into New England, depending on price for Jonnu Smith. I don't know. Maybe Jonnu Smith goes to the Chargers. I could think of several teams that would work for Jonnu Smith, but my issue with Jonnu Smith is volume. I know that he was an Arthur Smith project player, and he was always had that offseason hype. And last year he delivered a little bit with the 9 total touchdowns, and he was 12th in fantasy points per game in PPR. But I just don't see it. I don't think Jonnu Smith is that guy people want him to be. They thought he was going to be Delanie Walker 2.0. Delanie Walker's another guy who did say he wants to play this year. This is going to be a flooded tight end market, and we could see Jonnu Smith not get signed during this first wave because of the guys like Gerald Everett. You can get him cheaper. Delanie Walker, if he has anything left, I'm sure a team will bring him in. Jared Cook was just cut. There's a lot of veterans that you could probably get at a fraction of the cost.
What about you, Jerry? More likely to be overhyped, Hunter Henry?
I think they're equal. I think they're both going to be equally overhyped. If for one, they're tight ends, and it's a barren wasteland, and in general, not worth a wet sock. But, we got to start them, so we got to have one. Every time one changes scenery, we got to hear about it. Austin Hooper goes from Atlanta to Cleveland. Got to hear about it. Hayden Hurst goes from Baltimore down to Atlanta. He's going to take that Austin Hooper role. He sure as hell did not. And it's going to be the same thing with both of these guys. I don't, if one gets tied to the Bengals and Joe Burrow and all that young team, I think the hype is going to be through the roof. And I think you'll be happy that you have them. I'd be selling them because I don't think the production is going to link up with the perceived narrative value of them. But and your Colts are another one. I mean, it seems like they always have like a annoying tight end that you just don't want to have, and then they're just weirdly productive. Like they're always like tight end 14, and it's just some guy that looks like he washes cars. So I think those two are the big spots, and they have a little bit of money they can work with to sign one.
Well, luckily the weather here in Indy has turned, and so that car washing weather has gotten a lot better. I like the name that Anthony brought up, Gerald Everett. So here's the move. Here's the move. We're always looking for a strategy piece here on the Dynasty WarZone. Jerry, are you ready?
Oh boy. Okay, go ahead.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our Dynasty leagues. We're going to look to see who has Gerald Everett on their roster. And then you're going to send that GM a trade on anyone but Gerald Everett, because you don't want to tip your hand. You don't want to expose who you're actually going to get. Send them the worst trade ever that you could possibly offer, but not so offensive they don't respond.
This is why I hate him. This is why I hate him, Anthony, because of this right here.
And so you just send them an offer you know they're going to say no to, and then you start engaging them in chat. So hey, you won't move. I don't know. You won't move Devontae Adams. I was looking around your roster. Hey, I like so-and-so. And hey, what about Gerald Everett? You just don't want to come charging in and saying, hey, what's the asking price on Gerald Everett? They're going to give you the fisheye. They're going to start searching. They're going to start Googling, hey, why Gerald Everett? And then the next thing you know, the price goes up. But if you do it in a more subtle fashion, that's the guy. I want Gerald Everett to land in Cincinnati so bad I can't stand it. He had a year with Zach Taylor in LA when Zach Taylor was like the quasi offensive coordinator. He had a cup of coffee or two with Sean McVay. And to put an athletic specimen like Gerald Everett in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, with T. Higgins, with Tyler Boyd, with Joe Mixon, and then allow them to use that 5th overall pick on Penei Sewell and allow Jonah Williams to kick over to the right side of the line, that, my friends, would be a thing of beauty. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to ask you guys one last question, and then we'll let Anthony get out of here. We know this man hosts a million podcasts and YouTube shows of his own, and make sure you're following him. We're going to give him a chance to promote everything he does here in just a second. So we know all of these guys could be potentially on the move who didn't get free agent, who didn't get tagged. I want to know who's the one player that you think stands to gain the most by someone else leaving. So they're not leaving. They're going to be in the same city that they're already working in. I'm going to give you mine. And for me, it's been a long time. I gave this name out to our patrons at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I gave that out of the name of Keyshawn Vaughn. I really think that Leonard Fournette is going to take one of these jobs. He's in that next tier behind Aaron Jones. He's there with the Chris Carsons and a guy who could get a Melvin Gordon deal, that 2 year, $16 million. But man, I love Keyshawn Vaughn. Ronald Jones, has had a propensity to wind up in the doghouse from here or there. And if Leonard Fournette, if Lombardi Lenny goes somewhere else to play running back in 2021. It could open up some good things around week 3 or 4 for Keyshawn Vaughn. So that's mine. What about you, Anthony? Do you have a guy that benefits from a teammate taking a new job?
Come back to me on this one.
All right, I'm going to go to
I want to
Jerry.
think about this. Is a good question.
Sure.
I want to think about it.
Jerry, what do you got? Who is the guy that's going to stand to benefit from? I think Jerry's got. I'm reading Jerry's mind. I'm going to kick the leg out from under the bar stool. Jerry, AJ Dillon off the table.
I wasn't going to say AJ Dillon. I'm not an AJ Dillon guy to begin with, but he does put himself in a good spot. I think my guy would be Chase Claypool with Juju leaving. They're not the same player. They don't do the same thing. But it opens up a lot of targets. And obviously Deontay Johnson is the guy that is going to see, the motherload of targets. But I think that goes without saying. I think Chase Claypool is in a situation where he could take one of those great leaps that you always talk about. When you bring up the Dynasty trade calculator, you want to try and acquire guys that by this time next year, their value is twice what it is, in that trade calculator. And I think Chase Claypool could do that. He found the touchdowns. That goes without question. But, I want to see more target. He got targeted quite a bit in some games, and then other games it was, nickels and dimes. He didn't get everything that he wanted to get. You want to see that baseline production sort of go from 40, 50 yards to 70 yards. And if you can do that consistently, you're going to add 200-300 yards onto the season. And I think that's going to boost that man's value so much. If we're talking going into his age 24 season and he's coming off, whatever he did this year, like 900 yards or something, and he can pull off 1150 and another, 7, 8, 9 touchdowns, that value is going to skyrocket. And I think with Juju out, Ben is not great. Ben is not going to be winning a Super Bowl. But Ben will YOLO ball that thing down the field. That man will still chuck the ball like he is 24 years old and he's playing 500 in the backyard. So I think Chase Claypool stands to benefit from that. I think Deontay Johnson's value has already increased quite a bit, and I think Chase Claypool has the opportunity for his too also.
Well, it breaks my heart you did such a good job with that one. I was looking forward to cutting you down and making fun of you, but that's actually a damn good answer. Chase Claypool, darn good answer. Anthony, did you come up with one?
Yeah, and I'm going to go to the route of Chase Edmonds. We're going to assume that Kenyon Drake's on his way out. We've already heard reports that Chase Edmonds, they're comfortable with him being the guy if that's how it shakes out. Chase Edmonds only had 2 games with double-digit carries last year. The big one, he had 25 and then 3 receptions for 88 yards, was week 9 against Miami, one of the toughest run defenses they played all year. And the other one, he had 11 in week 15 against Philly. He actually had more PPR points that game than he did when he had the 25 carries. But Chase Edmonds was very productive last year, being the B guy to Kenyon Drake. And I think back to 2 years ago when Chase Edmonds really popped in that one game against the New York Giants as the featured guy and getting the workload and really flash his talent and upside. So if you look at Chase Edmonds' profile, he had quite a few 4, 5, 6 target games, 3, 4, 5 reception games. And I feel like, and this, I'm going to rope Kenyon Drake back in Miami, Kenyon Drake was that explosive receiver out of the backfield. They didn't use him that way in Arizona. Maybe there's more to this Kenyon Drake than and people are overlooking it. But as far as Chase Edmonds, we know he's versatile and catch the ball out of the backfield. If he can get 12 to 15 carries a game to go along with that target share, I think Chase Edmonds, he could be a solid upside RB2 next year.
Let me jump in on this because I mentioned Chase earlier about how I didn't believe the coach speak, and it's because I can't ever have nice things. and I have so many shares of Chase Edmonds. And it's because I love him for all the reasons you just said. I just can't overreact because every time I try for nice things, I'm looking at you, Darius Geis. It just falls flat on my face. The crazy thing about Chase Edmonds being the B guy, he finished as RB25 overall. Right. The tippy top of the RB3s. listen, if the man is given the opportunity, I'm with you. I think that's a great call that I didn't even think of, and he's been one of my boys for a couple of years. Still going into his age 25 season, young guy too. No, like the Chase Edmonds call. Randy, what you got on my man Chase?
I do like Chase Edmonds. I actually traded for him in a league last year with our boy Dan at Overhyped Sleeper, part of the GOAT District pod. So, man, a lot of goodness here today. I know we did a lot of speculating and spitballing, but really excited to have Anthony make his maiden voyage here in the WarZone. He does a lot of good stuff. You know, he does fantasy content. He does, I mean, when I say content, guys, I'm talking written, I'm talking podcast, I'm talking YouTube, I'm talking everything under the sun. But I told you about it in the intro. I want to give him a minute to tell you where you can find him and all the good work he does. Anthony, take it away, man.
Absolutely. You can follow me at The Real NFL Guru, and you can follow my show at the FF Face Off. We're found at all the top social media, podcasts, and live stream platforms. My written content is now primarily over at the Game Day NFL. I cover a little bit of fantasy, a lot of sports betting, and just, you know, breaking news and really anything they need. I'm usually there to pump out content for them. And of course, all of my work at the FF Face Off, live streams, podcasts, syndication. We're literally everywhere. And I do want to plug, we are bringing the mental health podathon back. We don't have a date set. This, you know, in July, second year, we're going to go 24 hours. We're partnering, of course, with the Hayden Hurst Foundation, and we're really trying to take it next level guest-wise. So,
well, yeah. I don't know that Jerry and I are next level, but you can certainly put us down for a half an hour slot or whatever Absolutely. You need. We would love to come on. We've had the good fortune the last couple of 2-3 years of jumping on the Scott Fishbowl Podathon, and we want to make sure you support that. Yeah, that is awesome. That's a partner with Hayden Hurst.
Absolutely.
We'll make sure to share the hell out of that with Anthony. And like I said, man, every day, FF Face Off, I feel like I see you and Michael talking about something, and you're keeping us up to date and making us better gamblers. I'm a big gambler myself. I'm an Indiana resident, Jerry, up there in the dirty mitten, and you're a Jersey guy. And
Absolutely,
you know, and here's the thing: you can listen to gambling content even if you don't gamble, because it will give you a different perspective. Another great reason to follow Anthony. And here's the thing: by the January 1st of 2022. I believe 47 of the 50 states will either be legal for gambling or will have legislation presented to make it legal. So you might as well get in front of this thing and follow
Absolutely.
Guys like me, follow guys like Anthony and everything that he's doing. Well, listen, man, it's been great being in leagues with you, and it's great to finally get you on the show. We'll get you back on, and we'll look forward to your podathon. Jerry, anything before we take this one in for a landing?
So if you are watching this on YouTube, you will know there is one thing that is sitting here that is not like the others. Between the three men that are sitting here talking right now, I'd say we have a combined 50 hours of time spent working out at the gym. And I have 0 of those hours. Look at these guys right here. All right. So I had to pitch that because you guys are looking great. And I enjoy donuts as much as the next guy. So
I eat my fair share of donuts. So.
Hey, yeah.
I don't believe you for 1 second.
I work out so I can eat the donuts. That's how this works. You know,
no,
that's how it works.
Good show. And here's another question I got to ask you, Anthony, because I have been to Jersey a few times. I don't know how you can drive around that state. I would want to pummel every single human being that is there. You guys are psychopaths.
Yeah, it's tough. And I was in a car accident 10 years ago. I had to get surgery from it. So I'm a little bit more, I don't want to say defensive, but I'm not big on aggressive driving. And when you really sit back, people really are assholes out there.
It's like every time I've gone, we always got to switch drivers before we get to Jersey, because I'm like, hell no, I'm too soft. I'm too soft. I'm too much of a millennial to drive in Jersey, man.
I couldn't imagine those states. I think like California, when it's like 85 as a speed limit. What?
Like Montana doesn't have a speed limit. Well, my favorite New Jersey fact for all of us telling New Jersey facts is they actually, in my opinion, have the best peaches in the United States. Georgia's very famous for Georgia peaches. I'm telling you, you get a New Jersey peach, it is in a class all its own. So there you go. There's some random, some Jersey facts. But Anthony, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Happy.
And on behalf of Anthony, Jerry, and myself, and I want to give a shout out real quick before I sign off. I want to give a shout out to Matt in the YouTube chat. Matt has been coming strong several nights in a row. What a great YouTube subscriber. And so get a little shout out to him. But on behalf of Anthony, Jerry, and myself, remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're all just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for tuning in, guys.